Welcome back to Klinga Games, and welcome back to my hardcore reverse Genlocke series. My reverse Genlocke series is a challenge I'm doing where I'm playing a hardcore Nuzlocke of every Pokemon game. But the catch is that any Pokemon line that enters the Hall of Fame is banned in all future games. For anyone unaware of what a Nuzlocke is a playstyle in Pokemon with self-imposed rules to increase the challenge. The main rules of a Nuzlocke are: one Pokemon can be caught from each area, if a Pokemon faints, it is dead and must be permanently boxed or released, and finally, all Pokemon must be nicknamed. For the hardcore rules, I cannot enter a gym leader over the level of the next gym leader's ace. For the Champions Cup, I cannot enter the first battle over the third member's ace. Leveling above the cap during battles is allowed. No items in battle except for held items. All battles must be played in set mode. I also play with the dupes and shiny clauses, so I can reroll encounters in any route until I find a new Pokemon, and I can catch any shinies I find unless they are banned from a previous game. I'm also not making this an official rule, but I'm trying my best not to use the generational gimmicks. So I will not be Dynamaxing or Gigantamaxing my Pokemon in this run, unless I end up wiping too much, in which case I reserve the right to ignore this rule. These are the banned Pokemon so far, and these are the Pokemon banned in Shield. Quite the ban list we have now. To attempt to minimize the video length, I'm going to only mention Pokemon that make some kind of an impact. Now let's go ahead and get into the run. Per the recent trend, I start the run by picking the profile pic most similar to me, and now I have enough characters to name myself Klinga Games. Then we start with a live stream where a very awkwardly built man with a terrible facial hair introduces the Galar region, and shows us an adorable elephant Pokemon. The crowd absolutely loves it and seems really stoked to get a long lecture about the region they probably live in, and Leon makes a stellar entrance with his Charizard right behind him. The crowd goes wild and Leon makes his Charizard absolutely massive to fight what looks like a fridge. Cut to game logo. Finally, my character gets introduced watching streams in the living room, and my neighbor/friend Hop comes in. My mom and Hop have a small chat, then Hop tells me to put that shit down because his celebrity brother is coming to town. So when he leaves, I run over to my bedroom and grab the largest backpack in the entire world. That is going to do an absolute number on my knees. But that's a problem for another day, so I talk to my mom and run out the door. Hop seems to share my sentiments on the bag, and we notice a Wooloo slamming itself into a gate. I'm sure this is totally normal and will not affect the story at all moving forward. Next stop is Hop's house, where Leon is not at. Good job, Hop. Let's try the train station, where there is a massive crowd. Should have been a pretty big clue. Way to screw that one up. Leon strolls out in the worst fit in Pokemon history before hitting his Charizard pose. I'm still not sure how that pose is supposed to look like a Charizard, but the crowd seems to love it. Leon claims he wants everyone in the crowd to be great Pokemon trainers, but let's be honest, there's no talent in this bullpen. When he's done hyping up the masses, Leon walks up to see his little brother and get introduced to the protagonist, namely, me. Then Hop runs off back home, sort of. After Leon does his pose again, we see that Hop stopped after 10 feet to watch from a distance. When we get back to the neighbor's house, Leon introduces us to the new batch of starter Pokemon. The cutscene is actually really cute, but it's really long, so we'll just cut to me running straight to the green monkey, Grookey. I choose the grass starter and nickname him Ringo, and we dap it up. Then Hop shows his massive IQ and picks Sobble, the water type, which is weak to grass. Leon gets an absolute bargain by taking in Scorbunny, the starter that is actually good against mine. Then everybody has a massive barbecue where Hop eats his weight in kebabs. And the next morning, Leon decides that Hop and I should have our very first battles against each other. Hop starts with a level 2 Wooloo and Ringo takes it down with no issues. Then Ringo learns his first grass type move before Hop sends out Sobble. Surprise, surprise, the grass type move takes Sobble out very easily. Much to Hop's amazement. Turns out Hop isn't the best trainer in the world right now. Leon is still impressed. Not enough to endorse us for the gym challenge, but enough to make it worth mentioning. Leon also tells us to learn more about Pokemon and go get a Pokedex, so it's off to the Pokemon Lab, which happens to be just down the road from the train station. But before we get there, the Wooloo from before breaks open the gate, and somehow it becomes me and Hop's responsibility to rescue it from the slumbering Weld. When we get deep into the Weld, a gigantic dog monster shows up as Hop complains about the fog. Bigger problems right now, buddy. So I send out Ringo to battle the completely unknown monster, but Ringo's attacks don't do anything to it, just phases right through it like nothing happens. After a couple tries, the doggo makes the fog even heavier and knocks out Hop and me. Must have been chloroform or something. Thankfully, Leon shows up after we wake up to let us know that he and Charizard saved Wooloo. Good job, team. After almost dying in the woods, I introduce Ringo to my mom, who gives me some money and wishes me luck. At least be a little concerned, Mom. Oh well, I head to the Pokemon Lab and get introduced to Sonia. Game Freak had a very clear intent when designing this character. Leon and Sonia have a little bit of banter before Sonia notices my Rotom foam and gives me the Pokedex. Much appreciated. It will not be filled up. I then head to Route 2 where Hop pretends he's going to teach me how to catch Pokemon before Leon barges in to show me how a competent trainer does it. I would rather learn from Leon. I would actually rather not do this again, so skip. Sorry Leon, I will accept the free Pokeballs though. And once we leave the area, I can officially begin the run. Woohoo! My soft rule in this run is that if a route has grass, I have to use the random encounter. And in Route 1, my random encounter ends up being a Grubbin. Could certainly be worse, so I catch the little bug and nickname him Pinch King, and he joins the team. And I head to Route 2 and get another bug. Super, my whole team is weak to flying and fire. Oh well. I catch the Blip Bug and nickname her E.T., and she joins the team. After training up the new members, E.T. hits level 10 and we get our first evolution of the run. Our Blip Bug evolves into a Dottler, a much better Pokemon. Plus it looks neat. After working my way to the end of Route 2, we meet up again with Leon, who is talking to an old lady about Dynamax. Turns out it's Professor Magnolia. We head inside, and after some brief introductions, Leon explains Dynamax to us, and tells us how Magnolia basically invented that shit. Then we get a little help from Magnolia to convince Leon that he should endorse Hop and me, the protagonist, for the gym challenge. Leon then decides if we can put on a good battle, he'll be convinced to endorse us. So now it just comes down to what's a quote-unquote good battle. After snooping around the professor's house for items, I head out front to battle Hop. Again. So let's do this. Hop leads with his Wooloo and I lead with Pinch King. Pinch King outspeeds and knocks out Wooloo in a single bug bite, so Hop brings out his Rookidee next, which is kind of unfortunate since it's got a type advantage over everybody on my team. Thankfully, I'm over leveled, so Pinch King can knock it out with a couple Vice Grips. And Hop is down to his last Pokemon, Sobble. Hop delays the battle with a Growl to prevent the 2-shot, but Pinch King is easily able to take a couple pounds and knock out Sobble with some Bug Bites and a Mud Slap. So I pretty easily 3-0 sweep in my favor. Let's see what the judges say. Once Hop is done complaining about how good his Pokeball throw is, miraculously, Leon decides it's still time to endorse both of us after seeing his little brother get thrashed. Love that nepotism. But I'll take the endorsement regardless. After bragging about how good he's going to be, Hop notices a couple falling stars landing a couple feet from us. Now that's just lazy writing. After some more Hop bragging, we decide to give our witching stars to Magnolia so she can make us some new accessories. Now I have the ability to Dynamax. The ability, not the inclination. Still thanks, Professor. I meet Hop at the train station where I disappoint him by not catching any more Pokemon. He still rewards me with a new TM and we board the train after our moms come to see us off and give us camping gear. We get another pretty fun cutscene that I really appreciate. While it's playing, I figured this is a good time to talk about how I'm going to treat the wild area. I'm going to allow one encounter before each gym in the Champions Cup, but the only wild area encounters I'm allowing is Dynamax dens, and I cannot change the dens after I select one, with the exception of the Dupes Claws. That being said, after we stop in the wild area and get the Pokemon Box Link, I head to my first den and I get a Wimpod. What is up with the bugs in this run? It's wild. Thank God there's no flying type gym in this game. Regardless, I take Wimpod down, catch it, and nickname him Scuttle, and Scuttle joins the team. After adding my new Pokemon, I run around the wild area for about an hour picking up any items I can find. Some of them turn out to be pretty solid. Then I head to Motostoke and get a nice pan over of the city. After walking a couple feet, I get called over by Sonia so she could introduce me to the brand new concept of a PC. Thanks, I've never seen it before. When I leave, Sonia is waiting to show me where the gym is. It's straight ahead. Thanks, I guess. Then Leon shows up again to talk about his lack of direction, and give me a Miracle Seed for Ringo. Thanks, bud. And I run into Hop, who talks about how great he is and doesn't give me a hold item. I know who my favorite brother is, that's for sure. Putting that aside, we both meet someone even worse when a pink jerk walks past us. When we get registered, the attendant is amazed that the champion endorsed 2 challengers this year, but Hop is quick to point out that this is entirely due to nepotism. That should clear things up. I decide to use a random number generator for my jersey, and I get 946. It doesn't mean anything. Regardless, we head over to the Budew Drop-In, a fun name by the way, and run into Sonia staring at a big statue. Which would be a lot less awkward if her head wasn't right about crotch level on this statue. Anyway, while I was judging her, Sonia made some comments about a Darkest Day and some hero person. It's probably not important. Then we head up to sign into the hotel and get accosted by this team's alleged evil team. The world famous Team Yell. The random grunts are stopping gym challengers from signing in. And, well, I'm a gym challenger, so we do battle. But they use dark types and I have a nearly all bug team, so it's really no issue. After I take care of that little nuisance, their idol Marnie shows up to clear them out, and we can all move on with our lives. Thanks, Marnie. After a good night's rest, I head back over to the stadium for the introduction ceremony, where the same totally normal, absolutely not evil in any way, Chairman Rose introduces the gym leaders. Most of them anyway. I love how much of a spectator sport this game makes the battling in the gyms. It's honestly great and it hypes me up. It's a fun cutscene. After the ceremony, we officially get introduced to Rose by Leon, who brags about his company before heading out. Good talk. I think it's time to actually start the gym challenge in earnest, but first I get access to the flying taxi and immediately head back to Wedgehurst for a particular encounter. Because I have the DLC packs for this game, I can head into the train station and get treated to a unique cutscene. There's a weird dude with a strange sense of fashion headed to the armor aisle before a Galarian Slowpoke shows up. After interacting with it, I get the option to catch it, which I do. Adding a new psychic type to the team and nicknaming her Slow. I think that's enough O's. The weirdo with the floating balls is vaguely impressed, but I don't really care. That's the last time I'm going to interact with the DLC in this run. So I fly to Motostoke again and try to head to Route 3. But I get ambushed by Hop on a Bridge, who wants to battle for the third time before the first badge. Yay! He leads with his Wooloo, but it's really just an annoyance. Pinch King is able to take it out with 3 bug bites, even after Wooloo hits a growl to drop his attack. Next up, Hop sends out his Rookidee. Not a great matchup for Pinch King, so I swap him out for Slow, who takes a peck on the way in before getting leered and hitting a yawn. With Rookidee sleepy, Slow just has to tank another peck before Rookidee falls asleep, and gets taken out with 3 confusions, leading to Hop's final Pokemon, Sobble. Sobble hits a soft pound to take Slow into berry range before she hits a yawn, but then Sobble surprises me with a bind before it takes a confusion and falls asleep. For some unexplainable reason, Sobble is still binding Slow when it is asleep. So even though it can't move or attack, Slow is stuck on the battlefield taking passive damage each turn. Plus, Sobble gets a first turn wake up to take Slow to 4 HP with a water gun, and that stupid bind finishes it off. Well, crap. Might break my record for fastest death in the challenge so far. To make it worse, Grookey finishes off Sobble with a single hit. So I head back to the Poke Center and add Slow to the newly created Dead Box. Trying to put that behind us, I head to Route 3 to get a new Pokemon, and end up with a Rookidee. Can never complain about that, especially with a Grass-type gym coming up. So I catch my new little bird and nickname him Chirp. While training up the team, Ringo hits level 16 and evolves into a Thwackey. Double the sticks, double the fun. After getting some training done, I head to the Galar mine. In caves, there are no random encounters, so I would just run to the closest Pokemon in the area. In this case, that Pokemon is Roly-Coly. Couldn't ask for a better encounter right now, so I catch the little unicycle and nickname her Old Queen Cole. After training up the team some more, I head through the mine and find the pink dude at the end. He warns me that if I come closer, we'll fight. So I come closer, and we fight. Bede leads with Solosis, great Pokemon by the way, and I lead with Pinch King, who outspeeds and get a one-shot with Bug Bite. Next, Bede sends out his Gothita. Gothita actually survives a Bug Bite, but the follow-up Psybeam barely does a quarter, so she falls to a second bite. Bede tries to act cool before he sends out his last Pokemon, Hatenna, who also survives the Bug Bite it anticipates and actually hits a pretty tough confusion, but Pinch King eats an Oranberry and finishes off Hatenna, winning us a very easy battle against the chairman's challenger. See you later, Bede. Try not to suck too much. When I get out of the mine, Chirp hits level 18 and gets to evolve, from an awkwardly round bird to a relatively normal-looking Corvisquire. Extremely shortly after, I catch my Route 4 encounter. The encounter doesn't matter in the slightest, but it gets Old Queen Cole to level 18 and she gets her own evolution into a Carcole. Very fitting name. It's also officially a fire type now. When I get to Turffield, I run into Sonia again at the top of a hill, and we look at some giant geoglyphs about Dynamax. Then Sonia prattles on about the darkest day before giving me a trading card and some useless survives. Thanks, I guess. After that, I pretend to be a Greedent. Getting back to business, I get Pinch King trained up to level 20 and it gets to evolve into a Chargebug and gains a new type. Even better, I can use the Thunderstone that I picked up in the wild area to immediately evolve it again, getting an amazing Pokemon in Vikavolt before we battle the first gym. This is just wild. And with the team trained up, I take on the gym challenge, which is just hurting Wooloo. Normally it's extremely easy, but for some reason there's one Wooloo that doesn't want to stay with the group today, and I have to battle an extra trainer because of it. Either way, I still complete the challenge with no real issues. So it's time to take on my first gym battle against the giant buff farmer Milo, who promises to introduce me to Dynamax before he sends out a Gossifleur. But I lead with Pinch King, who takes down Gossifleur with a single Bug Bite, leading to Milo's ace, Eldegoss. Milo starts the turn by turning Eldegoss into a massive ball of cotton, but Pinch King protects to minimize the damage of the incoming Max Overgrowth, which barely tickles. Next I bring in Old Queen Cole to tank the follow-up Max Strike, which does more damage than expected. And expecting another Overgrowth, I swap in E.T., who takes the attack very well on the grassy terrain. E.T. gets some leftover recovery before Eldegoss shrinks back down to normal and hits a crit round for solid damage. And E.T. sets up Reflect, like an idiot. I then have E.T. set up a light screen against what is clearly a special attacker, making it extremely safe to bring Pinch King back in on a magical leap. Bug Bite does surprisingly little damage to the Goss after Pinch King takes a round, but Eldegoss really cannot threaten Pinch King at all in return, letting Pinch King finish it off with a Thunderbolt and another Bug Bite, finishing up our first gym battle with no real issues. Milo takes the loss very well and gives me my first badge of the run. I'm not really a fan of the badges in this game. With a new badge in hand, I head to the wild area to take on my next raid encounter. This encounter ends up being a Volibee. Great encounter, especially since Pinch King trivializes the battle, letting me catch the bird and nickname her Bone Mama. Then on Route 4, I run into Team Yell accosting what looks to be a doctor, but who is actually an engineer. After beating them up and chasing them off, the dude gives me a free bite. Dope. Thanks. Unfortunately, I also run into Hop again on the same bridge, and he wants to battle, yet again. Let's get this over with. Hop leads with his Wooloo, but it leaves immediately after a Pinch King Thunderbolt, so he tries out his Corvisquire next, but it also gets shocked out immediately, leading to his final Pokemon, Drizzile. Drizzile outspeeds and tries to get another cheeky bind to kill, but it doesn't get the chance, falling to another Thunderbolt. Good work, Hop. I'm sure you'll be champ in no time with those skills. You should really hold on to that revive. When I get to Holberry, I see Rose trying to holla at some honeys, but he gets cock-blocked by his assistant. Then Bede tries to get some praise, but is hit with the "Who are you again?" by Rose. Oof. That's awkward to watch. Even wearing a bright pink coat in the summertime doesn't make Bede memorable. Then Rose invites me to dinner if I get my second badge. Me 1, Bede 0. I then find the gym leader just chilling by the lighthouse. Apparently you can't take her on before you find her, but I was just exploring town, so I didn't even realize she was missing. After that, I decided to do some fishing in the town bay, where I get my Holberry encounter, Choodle. Nice, the final piece to my Waterfire Grass core. So I catch the little turtle and nickname her Bitey. She's already at the level cap though, so she's going to stay in the box until it's gym battle time. Which, thanks to the magic of editing, is right now. I take on the gym puzzle, which is just a maze with extra steps. Surprisingly, it's more challenging than most Pokemon puzzles. But it's still pretty easy, and I finish it with no issues. So it's time to take on our next gym battle in the Water Gym led by Nessa, who does the most unnecessary splits in the world to throw a Pokeball 4 feet. Real pick-me vibe here. Nessa leads with her Goldeen, who hits a soft horn attack on Pinch before falling to a Thunderbolt. Unnecessary crit aside, Nessa brings out her Arrokuda, that hits another soft attack, Bite this time, before suffering the same fate as Golden. Nessa is down to her last Pokemon, but in her defense, it's a giant terrifying turtle monster, which hits a huge Max Geyser after Dynamaxing, doing massive damage to Pinch King before he fails to get the knockout with Thunderbolt. So now I'm in real trouble, so I bring in Bitey on a Max Darkness, that takes Bitey down to just 10 HP. I really bank on Nessa not using a water move on Bitey and bring in Old Queen Colin the Rain, who takes about a quarter from Max Darkness before Dreadnought shrinks back to normal scary size. We then use Protect to burn rain turns, and I bring in Ringo as Dreadnought switches to Water Gun for some unexplainable reason. Ringo shrugs it off as the rain stops, then Ringo decides to miss a Razor Leaf, forcing him to tank a pretty scary headbutt. But the follow-up Razor Leaf hits, finishing up the battle. Facing Dynamax Pokemon without Dynamaxing myself is pretty scary if I'm being honest. Thank God that Protect TM is available right at the beginning of the game to help stall. After I leave the gym, Oleana, Rose's assistant, invites me to have dinner with Rose to celebrate. After a brief detour to the wild area to catch a Pokemon that I don't use, I head to the restaurant for our meetup. I appreciate that Rose took the time to change into his nice sweatshirt and boxers. Really makes me feel valued. After sitting for a thrilling conversation between Sonia and Rose, Oleana tells Rose that it's time to go. I'm pretty sure he didn't actually get to eat. Neither did I, apparently. After Sonia is done playing with her hair, she gives me a TM and also leaves. Good meeting, everybody. Well, with that complete, I head to the very cleverly named Galar Mine number 2, and I run into my closest encounter, which is a Noibat, but only because I already had a Wimpod. I catch the little dragon and nickname him Batty McGee, and he heads to the box for the time being. Then after walking a couple feet down, I get accosted by the overtly pink challenger Bede. Despite losing to me already, he can't seem to imagine I'm stronger than him. This should be fun. Bede leads with Solosis, who doesn't stick around after a Pinch King Bug Bite, so Bede brings out his Gothita, who actually tanks a Bug Bite and hits a soft Psyshock. But after Bede heals it up, Gothita falls anyway to a crit Thunderbolt. Third up is Bede's Hatina, but once again Pinch King sends it back home with a single Bug Bite. Finally, Bede brings out his last Pokemon, Ponyta. My Little Pony outspeeds Pinch King to hit a Confusion and manages to tank a Bug Bite. But we're still nowhere close to being threatened, finishing off Ponyta with another Thunderbolt after another light attack. Finishing up another thriller. Thanks to the experience from the battle, Bitey hits level 25 and gets a big improvement, evolving into a Dreadnought, one of my favorites from Galar. Bede decides to twist his humiliating loss to me lacking talent. Whatever you say, buddy. A little deeper in the mine, I run into some Team Yell goons. After they pretend to be fans, Hop shows up. Then after some more pointless conversation, me and Hop take them out in a double battle. Then they run off. Further down the mine, me and Hop find the gym leader Kabu dealing with some more Team Yell members. Or potentially the same Team Yell members. It's really hard to say. They all kind of blend together. Either way, Kabu took care of them with no issue. Then Kabu decides to explain that his expert training routine is to battle water types with his 4 times weak Carcool. Questionable to say the least. Well, see you tomorrow in the match, I guess. Hope your Carcool survives the training. When I leave the mine, I look for my encounter in the Motostoke outskirts. I actually made a mistake here. I thought I found a random encounter, but rewatching the tape, I actually just ran into a Salandit in the grass. That's my bad. I end up catching the Salandit and nickname her Queenie, and she heads to the box for now. When I get back to the Budu Drop Inn, still love the name, I run into Marnie, who actually just gets to the point and says she wants to battle. Marnie leads with her Krogunk, and I lead with Chirp. Chirp outspeeds and one-shots Krogunk with a Pluck. Next up, Marnie brings out her Morpeko, which is actually crazy strong for this early in the game. Morpeko hits a strong bite as I bring in Pinch King. Pinch King survives another bite in the yellow, but Morpeko survives a bug bite. So Pinch King hits a Mud Slap after Marnie heals. But it accomplishes nothing as Morpeko hits another bite and gets a flinch on Pinch King. So I swap again and bring in Ringo as Morpeko hits another bite for a third. Thankfully, Ringo survives another bite and avoids the flinch to get a crit on Razorleaf to finish Morpeko. Lastly, Marnie sends out her Scraggy, so I swap in Chirp, as Scraggy hits a headbutt for about a quarter. Chirp outspeeds and knocks Scraggy into the red before Scraggy hits a second headbutt. But Chirp is free from danger and outspeeds to finish off Scraggy with another Pluck. Good battle, Marnie. Legitimately. Morpeko is a dangerous little rodent. After all that is finished, I take on the Motostoke Gym Challenge. Challenge involves knocking out and catching Pokemon, but the Pokemon I caught gets no use, so we'll just skip past it. So it's time to start my third gym battle against Kabu, the Fire-type veteran. He's the only gym leader that comes out of the same tunnel as me. Just a little fun detail, a little sign of respect. Kabu leads with his Ninetales and I lead with ET. I do this to bait a fire move while I swap into Old Queen Cole. Unfortunately, that fire move was Will-O-Wisp that fails instead of activating Steam Engine. Well, that plan is already off to a rough start, so I decided to do the same plan again. I bring ET back in on an Ember, but this time I let it stay in to get it burnt, before swapping back into Old Queen Cole when I know that Kabu will not be using Will-O-Wisp. And this time it actually worked, as Old Queen Cole takes an Ember and gets its speed maximized, letting it outspeed for an Ancient Power. That doesn't get the KO, so I try to have Old Queen Cole wear down Ninetales with Rapid Spins. But it does pitiful damage and Ninetales hits a Fire Spin to get passive damage, forcing me to finish it off with another Ancient Power. So Kabu brings out his Arcanine next, which gets a useless Intimidate on me. I protect to play it safe in case Arcanine has a ground move, but instead Arcanine gets a free agility. We outspeed on the next turn to take Arcanine below half with Ancient Power, but Arcanine gets another agility and we only have 2 Ancient Powers left. So I try to preserve PP by using Incinerate against Arcanine, but Arcanine's bites do pretty big damage and Incinerate is basically useless. So I eventually cave and finish off Arcanine with my 4th Ancient Power after Old Queen Cole is taken low, leading to Kabu's ace, Centiskorch. For some reason I thought a Centiskorch had Scald, so I swap out Old Queen Cole into Bitey as Centiskorch hits a max Flutterby for over half. So Bitey protects on the next to minimize the damage of max Flutterby, but I'm not safe to another, so I swap in Chirp on a final max Flutterby. Then I decide to be stupid and protect for no reason, letting Centiskorch get a free coil off. Chirp is still able to outspeed and hit a Pluck, but then gets killed by Centiskorch's Flame Wheel. I then decide to go back to my original strategy. I bring in ET to bait a fire move before swapping back into Old Queen Cole, who shrugs off a Flame Wheel, and gets her speed maximized, letting her outspeed and finish the battle with the final PP of Ancient Power. Really dumb battle by me. The move relearner is free in this game. All I had to do was have another rock move on Old Queen Cole and this would have been an easy sweep. Sorry Chirp. RIP. When I get back to the lobby, I add Chirp to the dead box and head to the wild area, hoping to find a replacement. On the way out, with Hop, Kabu catches up to us as fast as those old jacked legs will carry him. He lets us know that not many challengers make it past the grass, water, fire gyms as Milo and Nessa show up with him. Apparently it's their tradition to see us off with a weird little chant. Okay, thanks guys. We're gonna leave now. When we get to the wild area, Bede decides to show up yet again, but in a fun little turn of events, he actually wants to battle Hop and not me. You guys have fun with that. Thanks for wasting your own time instead of mine. My wild area encounter actually kinda sucks and doesn't see any use. I decided to just add Batty McGee to the team in the meantime. But while I'm in the area, I head over to the digging duo to try and get some good items. And I do, managing to snag a fish and dragon fossil. Nice. I also decided to do a little training to get the team ready for the next area. In the process, ET hits level 30 and evolves into her final form, Orbeetle. The nickname finally kinda makes sense. When I get to Hammerlock, the guard person confirms I have all the badges. Then Bede shows up to tell me that he beat Hop. Okay, not really shocked here. Hop isn't very good, but congrats I guess. When I get inside, Bede is telling the chairman how he will become the champion and how he will defeat me. Yada yada. Then Oleana takes Bede inside for a secret meeting while Rose talks to me. He wants me to know how important wishing stars are, but I'm really more concerned about why he's just out here in his boxers. Put on some pants, dude. When I get inside, Rose tells me about how the gym is actually a power plant, and he shows me what is honestly a pretty cute little guide on how the energy works. Then Oleana whispers something to him and they leave. Good talk. I also run into Leon outside, who talks about how worried he is about Hop after he lost. But Hop already lost to me like 4 times, so I figured he'd be used to it by now. Then he runs off in what is likely the wrong direction for a meeting with Oleana and Rose, and the little cutscene continues when I run into Rayhan outside the vault. He talks about how he knows who I am and is looking forward to battling me. But I'm really just here to see the vault, so do you mind? Thanks. When I get to the vault, I run into Sonya again and get another vague history lesson inspired by some pretty below average art. The big revelation this time is that there are actually 2 heroes, and Sonya gives me some more revives. Why does she think I need these? I'm insulted. When I get out into Route 6, I find some Team Yell members talking about how cute Silly Cobra is. I don't know if Game Freak wanted us to agree with him here, but no. I like most of the Gen 8 roster, but Silly Cobra is just a miss for me. Then an old lady and Hop show up, and Hop decides that we should battle the Team Yell members. I take care of mine with no issues, but somehow Hop loses to a random grunt. Fine, I'll take care. Are you actually getting worse at this? Just embarrassing. After they leave, Hop lets me know he feels like he's disappointing Lee and making him look bad. He kind of is. I also meet Opal for the first time, who I just love. Her slow-ass walk always makes me laugh. On my way through Route 6, I'm very careful to avoid any wild Pokemon so I can make it to Karalis without using my encounter. I hand her my fossilized fish and Drake, and Kara gives me a wonderful little abomination, Dracovish. I nickname Dracovish Mismatch, and it joins the team in Batty McGee's place. Then I use all the candies I've gathered so far and get it leveled up to the rest of the team. Then in Stownside, Hop decides he's down on himself and wants to try battling me again. This will only make it worse, bud, but sure, here we go. Hop leads with his new Cramorant, and I lead with Pinch King. Cramorant dives to avoid the first Thunderbolt, but Pinch King is able to protect as it comes up. Then Cramorant hits a light Pluck before getting one-shot with another Bolt, and the random fish does decent damage before it goes down. Then Hop sends out his Silly Cobra. I guess that Team Yell propaganda worked on him. Mismatch comes in on a weak brutal swing and gets a flinch with his first bite. Silly Cobra then uses Dig after taking another bite, but Mismatch is just able to protect to avoid the attack and finish it with a final bite. Hop sends out his Drizzile next, who uses Tearful Look to lower Mismatch's attack. Very fitting for Hop right now. Drizzile then hits a soft Water Pulse crit before Mismatch lowers his speed with Bulldoze. Another Bulldoze lowers it even further before Hop starts crying again. So I bring in Ringo to take a Water Pulse and finish off his Crybaby Lizard with a Razor Leaf. Hop's last Pokemon, hilariously, is a Toxel. So Mismatch comes in, basically for free, and finishes the battle with a Bulldoze. I can definitely understand how this latest team lost to a Team Yell Grunt. I would just go back to the drawing board, buddy, because this team is beyond salvaging. Also, Opal just teleports behind me and gives me a trading card. What a freaking wild card that lady is. With all that done, I take on the gym challenge, but it's less a puzzle and more of a spinning minigame. I would definitely be vomiting in real life if I did this. My player character doesn't seem to be phased though, and we knock it out with no issues. All that's left now is to get the team up to the level cap for the next gym. During the process, Ulkwing Cole hits level 34 and gets to evolve into her final form, Colossal, one of my all-time favorite rock types in any generation. Ringo also gets to level 35 and gets his own evolution, evolving into a Rillaboom and extending my streak of final evolution starters to 1 game. Go me. Now with that behind us, it's time to take on the spooky child that is the ghost gym leader, Alistair. Alistair leads with his Yamask and I lead with Pinch King. We start the battle with a Sticky Web before Yamask disables the move. Whatever will we do now? Probably shrug off a Hex and knock out Yamask with 2 Bug Buzzes. Next, Alistair brings out his Cursula. Cursula manages to survive a Thunderbolt, but then decides to kill itself with Curse. Good work, buddy. Mimikyu is the next choice for Alistair, and I'm forced to swap out because of Curse, but Old Queen Cole shrugs off the incoming Slash. We then break Disguise with an Ancient Power as Mimikyu hones its claws. Mimikyu hones its claws again as we hit more Ancient Powers, but a critical hit on Shadow Sneak still barely tickles. So Old Queen Cole is able to easily take it down without feeling threatened. Thank God for that bulk. Finally, Alistair is down to his ace, Gengar. Knowing that Gengar will Gigantamax and expecting its trapping signature move, I decide to sack ET. Gengar uses Max Darkness instead, and ET survives with over half. So I have ET Protect to burn another turn, and Gengar goes for Max Darkness again for some reason. Well, okay. I decide to give ET a chance to survive by setting up Light Screen, and it does, on 2 HP. ET survives the attack and successfully stalls out Dynamax without being trapped. So I let ET survive and bring in Mismatch, who gets crit immediately with Hex, bypassing Light Screen. But Mismatch gets some luck of its own, flinching Gengar with a bite, letting us finish the battle with another. Absolute stellar performance there by ET. I still cannot figure out why Gengar didn't go for its signature move, but I will definitely take that win. When I leave the gym, Sonya's Yamper runs up to me. Then Sonia shows up and tells me she is interested in looking at a historic mural in town for information on the darkest day. We hear a loud thump towards the mural and she runs off. A fun little note here is that the NPCs in the area changed their dialogue to acknowledge the noise. At the top of the stairs, Bede is standing next to a giant elephant Pokemon talking about destroying the mural for wishing stars. I'm confused on a lot of the details here. Not the least of which is what does any of this have to do with wishing stars. But Bede wants to battle. Bede leads with Duosion and I lead with Pinch King, as usual for these occasions. Duosion falls to a single Bug Buzz. Next up is Bede's Gothorita, but it also falls to a single hit. Third is Hatchram, but it meets the same fate in a single Bug Buzz. Finally, Bede sends out his Ponyta. This one actually outspeeds to hit his Psybeam before it also gets one shot. Somehow, this performance makes Hop look even worse in comparison. When all the Rose Corporation officials show up, Oleana and Rose take turns telling Bede what a little loser he is. Rose even goes on about how he took in Bede when he was a child and how, through no fault of his own, Bede turned into a disappointment. Then they decide to disqualify Bede from the gym challenge. Probably for the best. He was never going to make it to the rest of the gyms with that pathetic little team. After they leave, Sonia talks about how sad it is that the mural is damaged. But is it really? It looks like a first grader drew it. I'm actually glad it's falling apart. When Sonia sees the fancy statue behind the mural, she has a total brain blast. Or at least the cutscene made it seem that way, because after that she starts asking me questions, and I have to figure out the history for her. It turns out the hero who saved the region was actually 2 Pokemon. Who could have possibly seen this coming? Legendary Pokemon? In a Pokemon game? I'm stunned. Then she gives me more revives. What a useless present. Putting that behind me, I head to the wild area to find my encounter, and there is only a single active den in the entire area. Well, that's an easy decision. I start the raid and my encounter is a Ferrothorn. What a find. I catch the spiky grass boy and a heavy ball and nickname him Pokey. Pokey does end up having a minus attacking nature, so I leave him in the box for now. Next, I head to the Glimwood Tangle to get another encounter. My first encounter is Phantom, but it is banned due to Trevenant entering the Hall of Fame in X. So I get my next encounter, which is a Hatchram, which is just perfect. I've always loved this line. So I catch the little hairball and nickname her Miss Witch. But she stays in the box for the time being. When I get to Bologna, nothing happens. I don't get bothered by a single rival or professor. What a blessing this city is. So I can go ahead and take care of the gym challenge, which is basically just normal battles with some extra steps, so it's not an issue at all. A fun thing about this gym is that if you check the notebook at the end, you can see Opal's review of Sonia and Leon. I love little things like this in Pokemon games. Now it's time to take on Opal, the Fairy-type gym leader. I love that she's just chilling in place when we walk out. I'm sure this is because her walking out would take too long, but I still think it's great. She's my favorite gym leader in Galar. Opal leads with Galarian Weezing and I lead with Pinch King. Turn 1, Weezing hits a Sludge and gets the poison as we set up Sticky Web. I correctly guess that Opal's nickname is the Wizard and get a speed boost, but Weezing still survives a Thunderbolt on a Sliver. And gets a crit on another Sludge before falling to another attack. Second, Opal brings out her Togekiss, so I swap in Bitey on an Ancient Power. After correctly guessing that purple is Opal's favorite color, Bitey gets a defense boost and does over half to Togekiss, then outspeeds after a Rock Tomb to finish it off. Mawile comes out next for Opal and gets an Intimidate down on Bitey. Bitey hits a Razor Shell and gets a defense drop, but Mawile just raises his again with Iron Defense. So I swap in Old Queen Cold before impressing Opal with my guess for her age and get our attack stat raised, and we outspeed to knock out Mawile with Incinerate, leading to Opal's final Pokemon, Alchemy. Opal decides to Gigantamax her Alchemy and turns it into a gigantic wedding cake. Somewhere, Big Mom is freaking the F out. Old Queen Cold protects a couple turns and hits a soft Ancient Power to stall out Dynamax. Then she tanks a Draining Kiss and finishes the battle with a massive Heavy Slam. My pink may be lacking, but we still kicked Opal's butt in that battle. I don't care how easy the battle is, that woman is an absolute legend. When we leave the gym, Opal kindly offers to escort me to Hammerlock so she can run some errands, and we obviously agree to. Then we run into Bede, who is kinda just staring at the gym. He's still got an attitude, but he has no idea what he's in for. Because as soon as Opal turns the corner, that old lady turns on the jets to get a closer look. And she takes Bede under her wing to become a gym leader. Slay, queen. I also run into Sonia again. After she rambles about, quote-unquote, her findings, we hear another large bang. I've gotta stop hanging out with this girl. Leon shows up and tells us he'll take care of it. And he actually does. Take notes, Cynthia. Then on Route 7, I run into Hop again and he wants to battle. He leads with the Trevenant and I lead with Pinch King. We set up a Sticky Web, then get confused with Confuse Ray. I decide to stay in only to hit myself and then get hit. But on the next turn, Pinch King takes Trevenant low with Bug Buzz and gets hit with Shadow Claw. Hop heals up Trevenant, but Pinch King snaps out of confusion to take it low again, and outspeeds for the KO. Hop brings in Heatmore next, so I swap in Old Queen Cole, who gets a Steam Engine boost from Fire Lash and then takes Heatmore low with Ancient Power. We get licked in return, but don't get paralyzed and finish Heatmore. Inteleon is Hop's next Pokemon. who will kill Old Queen Cole, so I swap in Ringo on a weak snipe shot. Then Ringo outspeeds thanks to Sticky Web and knocks out the lizard with drum beating. Hop sends in Snorlax next. Ringo does about half with drum beating, but Snorlax uses stockpile to raise its defenses. Doesn't really matter though. Ringo avoids body slam paralysis and takes down Snorlax with a facade and another drum beating. Hop claims he's the kind of guy who gets fired up in these situations, but his last Pokemon gets outsped and falls to a single drum beating. Very fired up, very confident. Hop contemplates on his 6th consecutive loss to me and claims he's still going to be champion someday. Whatever you say, buddy, just leave me alone. A little north, I get my encounter for Route 7 and it ends up being a Shelmet. It's technically better than nothing, so I catch the little bug and nickname him Trash. 3 points for anyone who can guess why this is noteworthy. I also get my encounter for Route 8. I guess this is karma for making fun of Hop's Silly Cobra because it ends up being a Sandaconda. It takes a while, but I eventually catch the big snake and nickname her Coilette, and she heads to PC. I try to keep the encounter train rolling when I get to Sirchester. I run to Route 9 and find my encounter, Cramorant. Unfortunately, I battle it in the hail and it kinda dies before I can catch it. So that's one less encounter for me. I also run into Bob's Your Uncle and see the 5th tapestry early. My character thinks it looks familiar. Wonder why. I also head to the gym to learn that Hop lost. I am completely shocked by this development. I take on the gym challenge, the most frustrating gym challenge in the history of Pokemon. I'm surprised my character survived this challenge with the amount of holes I fell down, but I eventually do make it to the end. So it's time to take on the Shield exclusive gym leader, the Ice Master, Melanie, and her 20 pounds of hair. Melanie leads with Frostmoth and I lead with Old Queen Cole. Frostmoth sets up Hail as we set up our Stealth Rocks. Then our attack is lowered with Feather Dance before we one-shot the Moth with an Ancient Power, and get an Omni Boost. Melanie's Galarian Darmanitan comes out next, but thanks to the boost and rocks, Old Queen Cole is able to take it out with another Ancient Power after a taunt. Melody's next Pokemon is Ice Cube, but it stays in its Ice Face form as Old Queen Cole outspeeds and gets a third one-shot with Ancient Power. Last up is Melanie's ace, Lapras. Because of taunt, we aren't able to protect Stall, so I swap out to ET as Lapras is Gigantamaxed and hits a huge Max Geyser. We then protect to Stall, but the follow-up Geyser still manages to do a decent chunk. Expecting a third Geyser, I bring in Ringo, but even he takes a third from a rain-boosted hit. We protect Stall one more turn to scout out Lapras' move. But it's just an Icy Wind, so we stay in, and Ringo rewards the decision with an outspeed and one-shot with Drum Beating. This battle did have me pretty worried with the G-Max Lapras at the end, but the team pulled together for a flawless victory. When I leave the gym, Sonia invites me to Bob's Your Uncle for a quick meal. First I head to the wild area, but I fail my raid because my partners kept dying. My Pokemon survived the raid, so I'm counting this as a failed encounter with no losses. It was a Crustle, by the way, so that line is disqualified in this game. I head back to Bob's Your Uncle to meet up with Sonia and Hop, and we are shocked to find a final tapestry. Me most of all. With this final clue, we are able to conclude that the Pokemon we met in the Slumbering Weld was the ancient hero, despite the Pokemon not showing up in the tapestry, and no clear signs in the tapestry shows the Slumbering Weld. Good work with those wild conclusions, team. Now let's have some food. After that, we head to the Hero's Bath where we learn absolutely nothing, but it still inspires Hop to battle me. Yet again. Why are you encouraging this, Sonia? Hop leads with his Double and I lead with Bitey. Double uses Defense Curl before Bitey hits a Razor Shell for about a third. But then Double does a concerning amount of damage with Double Kick before another shell, so I swap Bitey out for ET as Hop cheats by healing his Pokemon. I protect to scout his move, but Hop just uses Defense Curl again, letting ET do under half with Psychic and dodge a takedown. ET protects again to get more hail damage before another Psychic takes it into hail range, and Double curls again. Hop brings out his Corviknight next, so I bring in Old Queen Cole to shrug off a Drill Peck. We then get hit with Scary Face, which is basically pointless, and set up Stealth Rocks. After that, we're not threatened at all. Even a critical hit Drill Peck does minimal damage, letting Old Queen Cole hit an Incinerate and an Ancient Power for an easy knockout. Inteleon comes out next for Hop, so I have my Pile of Rocks protect to get some free hail damage. Then I bring in Ringo on a Snipe Shot. Inteleon tries to save itself by crying, but it accomplishes nothing as Ringo knocks it out immediately. Hop sends it in Snorlax next. But even with his attack lowered, Ringo isn't threatened at all. Ringo hits a Brick Break to take it below half and avoid the Body Slam paralysis. Then Ringo protects to get some more hail damage before I bring in Bitey, who also avoids paralysis, and takes down Snorlax with a Razor Shell. Last up is Pincurchin, so I have Bitey protect for some chip before I swap in Pinch King, who is immune to paralysis. After that, it's a simple matter of protecting one more time before finishing off the little Spike Ball with Bug Buzz, bringing an end to another thrilling Hop battle. At least he's taking his losses in stride more. That's called progress. I move on from that annoyance to Route 9, where I meet another annoyance, Team Yell. They're either harassing a Dreadnought or the same scientist doctor from before. Really hard to say which. The important thing is that I make them go away with no issues and get an upgrade to my bike so I can ride on water. I love how cartoonishly stupid this is. It's fun. When I get down towards Spikemouth, I find the door to the city is closed. Then Marnie calls me over from her super secret hiding spot. I head over there and she tells me I'm only allowed to enter the city if I battle her, and a couple Yell Grunts run over to cheer her on. Let's get this over with. Marnie leads with Lipard and I lead with Mismatch. We get tormented before Mismatch hits an Iron Head for about a third. Then we take a light Sucker Punch before Draco Meteor knocks out the kitty. Marnie's Toxicroak comes out next, so I protect to scout out what move it will use. I decide to bring an ET on a Poison Jab, but it does nearly half and gets the Poison too. Then Toxicroak hits a Sucker Punch to take ET to 9 HP before Psychic knocks it out. After leftovers and Poison, ET is left with 2 HP as Scrafty comes in. So I swap out into Ringo on a Crunch. Brick Break takes Scrafty to half before it hits a Scary Face to drop our speed. Thankfully, it wastes its last turn with another before Brick Break finishes it. Finally, Marnie brings out her ace Morpeko, and I swap in Pinch King on a Torment. Then I waste my time with Protect for some reason before Pinch King shrugs off a bite to finish the battle with a Bug Buzz. We just barely kept ET alive again, but that's another win. I finally get access to Spikemouth, but there's literally nothing to do here, so I just do the gym challenge. If it can really be called that, because it's just beating up Team Yell Grunts in an alley. When I get to the end of the alley, Marnie yells at Team Yell for locking up the city, and they just admit they were trying to rig the gym challenge to prevent any other challengers from getting the 7th badge. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's a felony. Oh well, I go ahead and get treated to a beautiful concert. I assume it's beautiful anyway because there's no voice acting, and the music is very bland. I love Piers' character, but it's just dumb to make a music-themed gym leader and not give them a voice. It's very cringy to watch. Oh well, let's get started. Piers leads with a Scrafty and I lead with Old Queen Cole. We get faked out on turn 1, but on turn 2 we get hit with a Sand Attack and set up Stealth Rock. Then I swap in Pinch King on a resisted Brick Break. I protect to get some leftovers recovery before hitting Scrafty below half with Thunderbolt. We also get a full paralysis so we can finish it off with another. Malamar is up next for Piers. After its introduction it just hits a Foul Play before going down to a single Bug Buzz. So Piers ends out his Obstagoon next. It also gets a little introduction, but the battle gets really boring. For the next 3 turns, we just take turns alternating Protect and Obstruct, Obstagoon's signature protecting move. I don't mind though, because Pinch King gets some leftover recovery each turn. So it's nearly at full health when Obstagoon hits a Throat Chop, but that also prevents Bug Buzz. So we get some more recovery when Obstagoon uses Obstruct before a Thunderbolt takes it below half. Unfortunately, we are also taken below half, so we trade Obstructs and Protect again, giving Pinch King 3 more turns of recovery. Then when we finally do get to move again, Pinch King is able to survive another Throat Chop and finish the Musical Weasel with another Thunderbolt. Finally, Piers brings out his final Pokemon, Skuntank. We protect again to scout out his move, but then he switches to Toxic as soon as I bring in Mismatch. Mismatch hits a Leech Seed for a little bit of damage before getting Screeched, but he's still able to survive the incoming Sucker Punch and hit a Draco Meteor. That doesn't kill. Great. I swap again into Old Queen Cole on a failed Sucker Punch, and my Rocky Girl is able to finish the battle with an Ancient Power after getting poisoned. I would love to say this is the end of the fake singing scenes with Piers, but unfortunately, we are far from done with that. After I get my badge and uniform from Piers, I get a front row seat to some family drama. Piers wants Marnie to take over the gym for him, but she says that won't be possible when she's champion. It's a good thing that won't be an issue, Marnie. See ya, Dark Siblings. After that's finished, I hear some more loud bangs coming from Hammerlock, but I run into Leon again. Leon tells me he's got it under control and runs off to get it under control. A champion who actually helps out. What a legend. Before I investigate that little matter, I head into the wild area, but my encounter is never used. So let's run after Leon. After navigating through a giant crowd in the tunnel, I find Hop on the other side. We talk about Leon for a bit before he pulls up a news story of Leon doing his best cool guy pose in front of a giant berserker. It's a pretty good pose. Thanks for not making me deal with that. We meet up with Leon and Sonia again in town and find out that Pokemon have been Dynamaxing outside of the normal spots. Then Old Lady Magnolia shows up to talk to Sonia. After a lot of prattling about Dynamax and us offering to help, Sonia and Magnolia run off. Then Leon tells us to focus on the gym challenge. Don't have to tell me twice. Off to the Hammerlock Gym Challenge. Definitely a fun challenge, basically 3 double battles against weather teams. A rain team, a sun team, and a hail team. I wonder what weather Rayhan's gonna use. Before we find out, I train the team up to the level cap. While training up the last couple team members, Scuttle hits level 40 and evolves into a Golisopod. I had been using Pokejobs to keep the backup Pokemon closer to my team's levels, so that's why he evolved so late. Putting that behind us, it's time to take on the final gym leader of the region, Leon's self-proclaimed rival, Rayhan the Dragon Master. Rayhan leads with Flygon and Gigalith, and I lead with Ringo and Mismatch. After the sandstorm gets set up, Flygon hits a breaking swipe for decent damage and an attack drop. Then Ringo hits a drum beating on Gigalith, and Mismatch hits a Draco Meteor for the one-shot on Flygon. And Gigalith hits Ringo with a body press. Rayhan brings out a Sandaconda next. I protect with Ringo as Mismatch swaps out for ET right before Gigalith sets up Stealth Rock, and Sandaconda fails Glare. Next, ET sets up Reflect, and Ringo takes Sandaconda below half with a drum beating. As Sandaconda paralyzes ET, and Gigalith hits another body press into Ringo. Ringo then protects again as ET swaps out to bring in Bitey, and Rayhan doubles into the protect to give me a free swap. This lets Ringo take out Sandaconda with another drum beating, and Bitey take out Gigalith with a liquidation right before Sandstorm ends, forcing Rayhan to bring out his ace, Duraludon, in a 2v1 situation. I swap out Ringo to bring in ET as Rayhan Gigantamaxes his Refrigerator Dragon. Duraludon then hits a Max Knuckle into Bitey before Bitey does decent damage with a Crunch. I then bring in Pinch King on a resisted Max Knuckle as ET barely tickles the dragon with Psychic. Then Reflect goes down as I have Pinch King Protect as ET uses Reflect, but Rayhan plays around it and kills ET before it can move. This gives me a free swap into Mismatch, but I make a brain dead play and use Protect when it's holding Choice Specs, giving Duraludon a free turn to kill Pinch King with a +2 Stone Edge. So I bring Ringo in on the free swap before switching out Mismatch into Old Queen Cole and Protecting, which Rayhan plays around again by using Breaking Swipe to hit both slots. But this allows me to protect Old Queen Cole on the next turn to swap Ringo out for Mismatch. Thankfully, Rayhan attacks into the Protect with Stone Edge so I can come in for free, letting Mismatch outspeed and finish the battle with a Choice Specs Draco Meteor. This was definitely my worst performance of the run. ET was going to die regardless, but Pinch King would still be alive if I had just attacked the first time I brought Mismatch in. As I get my props from Rayhan, Hop shows up for his turn to battle the Gym Leader. I lay ET and Pinch King in the dead box, which really sucks. Those two Bug Kings have been with me since the first 2 routes, but life goes on. Outside the gym, Magnolia gives Sonia her professor's coat, which just looks like a normal coat to me. Can I go now? I get another wild area encounter, but this one is too high level to use right now and never gets any use. So I decide that Miss Switch and Pokey will be added to round out the team, but first I need to level them up. In the process, Queenie, who was in the party while I train, hits level 40 and evolves into a Salazzle, for future reference. After that, Miss Witch hits level 42 and gets to evolve to her final form, Hatterene. Very slow, but it's nice to have a strong, special attacking fairy. Unfortunately, I get a little too cocky while training up my new and backup team members and try to take on the Glalie on Route 9. It's at a really high level, but I thought Queenie could beat it. I was very wrong, and Queenie gets hit with a Sheer Cold for the one-hit KO. I thankfully get away after, but that's another for the death counter. I lay Queenie to rest in the dead box and recalibrate my expectations for training. After some much safer training, Batty McGee gets up to level 48 and gets to evolve into a Noivern. A good Pokemon, but I definitely prefer Mismatch as my Dragon type. After getting some more training done, I get the new team assembled. I then head to the train station where I meet up with Rayhan and Hop, and I find out that Hop actually managed to get his last badge. I'm actually impressed. Good job, buddy. Let's head to Route 10. We get another little train cutscene where Hop talks about the city of Wyndon. Now that we're at Route 10, we face a whole new challenge to the run. The level cap only increased by 1 level between Rayhan and the Champion Cup semifinals. So I have to minimize the battles and try to keep my team below the level cap. After the 3rd battle, I have to pull Ringo and add Bone Mama to the team. After the 4th battle, I have to pull everyone except Miss Witch. I add Scuttle, Batty McGee, Coilette, and Trash to the team for the rest of the route. And I have to face the final 3 battle gauntlet with my backup team. First up is Hiker Donald. His first Pokemon Gigalith manages to hit a hard rock slide on Miss Witch, but falls to a couple dazzling gleams. For his second Pokemon, Rhydon, I swap out into Scuttle, but Rhydon hits a Stone Edge on the switch and activates Emergency Exit. So I bring in Coilette and they have a battle of the Bulldoze, with my Snake coming out on top thanks to type effectiveness. 1 trainer down. Next up on the docket is Gentleman Glenn. Glenn leads with Galarian Darmanitan against my Scuttle, but thankfully Scuttle is able to one-shot with a first impression. Next, Glenn brings out his Phalanx. Scuttle stays in and tanks a crit close combat in response with a liquidation that takes Phalanx into hail range, and brings out Glenn's Graplocked. Scuttle hits a liquidation to under half as Graplocked bulks up, but thanks to hail, Scuttle is able to get the range to finish the battle with another. Solid sweep by Scuttle, leaving a single trainer. So it's time to take on the last trainers, interviewers Gillian and Cam, in a double battle. They lead with a Clink-a-Clang and a Heliolisk against my Scuttle and Coilette. Scuttle manages to one-shot Heliolisk with a first impression before getting paralyzed with Clink-a-Clang's Zap Cannon, and Coilette manages to do over half with a Fire Fang crit. Noivern comes out next for the interviewer, so I swap Scuttle out for Trash, who immediately dies to a Hurricane, letting Coilette ignore the incoming Zap Cannon and finish Clink-a-Clang with another Fire Fang. So I bring in Batty McGee on the free swap, and the interviewer sent out Togedemaru. Batty McGee outspeeds in the mirror match to knock out Noivern with a Dragon Pulse, and gets paralyzed by Nuzzle, but it doesn't matter because Coilet can finish off the Rodent, the Trainers, and the Gauntlet with a 4 times effective Bulldoze. Solid performance by the B team there, keeping my contributors under the level cap and only losing trash in the process. I arrive in Winden with Hop, who beelines it for the stadium. Have fun with that. Once I get to the stadium and say I'm in the clear on battles, I put the A team back in and get ready for the Champions Cup. I register at the front desk with Hop and get ready to take on the other challengers. First up, I have to take on the Dark-type rival and Piers' little sister, Marnie. Marnie leads with her Lipard and I lead with Miss Switch. I expected her to lead with Scrafty for some reason. I also expected her to use Fake Out, which weirdly doesn't happen. So I get hit with a Snarl that drops Miss Switch as a special attack, and Lipard still falls to 1 Dazzling Gleam. Next, Marnie brings in her Toxicroak. Toxicroak is able to outspeed and hit a Venoshock for big damage, but Miss Switch holds on and one-shots with Psychic. Now Marnie brings out her Scrafty, and Miss Switch protects to scout the incoming Crunch, so I bring a mismatch, but Scrafty swaps to using Scary Face. Then it goes back to crunching before Draco Meteor does pitiful damage. That's the strongest Dragon-type move in the game, just to remind everybody. Thankfully, Mismatch is still able to win the 1v1 thanks to Scrafty's swagger putting itself in KO range from an Iron Head. Good work, Marnie. Rillaboom comes in next on a Morpeko, who immediately gets paralyzed with Spark. Lovely. Thankfully, Ringo is unfazed and able to knock out Morpeko and get back to full with a Drain Punch. Finally, Marnie brings out her newest Pokemon, /Ace Grimmsnarl. Ringo protects to minimize damage from the alleged favorite move, Gmax Snooze. If this was your favorite move, why would you not use a Grimmsnarl at all until this point, Marnie? Suspicious. After trading a massive Max Starfall for Drum Beating, I swap out into Pokey, who takes over half from another Snooze. It's easy to forget how much damage Grimmsnarl can dish out when you usually see it as a sporting Pokemon. Thankfully, its attacks are a lot easier to deal with out of Gmax, and Pokey can get passive recovery with Leftovers and Protect, making it safe to finish off Grimmsnarl with an Iron Head. Good game, Marnie. I forgot how scary Grimmsnarl can be, along with most of your team order. When I go back to the locker room, Hop heads into his match. Then a tournament official tells me that he won easily in the first round, which is probably supposed to be impressive and surprising, but with Beat Out, I already took care of the only other named character, so he literally just beat a no-name trainer. Let's get this over with. Hop leads with his Double and I lead with Mismatch. Ironhead does about a quarter on Double before it hits a crit Body Slam. Then Mismatch uses Draco Meteor, but once again it does very underwhelming damage before the next Body Slam gets a Paralysis. And Hop shows his moral fortitude by cheating in a tournament match, healing Double before another Ironhead. Paralysis then pays off, letting Hop set up a Cotton Guard for free. So I try another Draco Meteor, but it's even more embarrassing this time. I'm forced to swap here, so I bring in Pokey next on another Body Slam. We protect to scout and heal as Double swaps to Reversal, which is very scary. But it gives me a free swap to Miss Switch, who only takes quarter damage from fighting moves, letting Miss Switch take out Double, but not before getting paralyzed herself. Great. Pincurchin comes in next for Hop, but it's so slow that a paralyzed Miss Switch still outspeeds to hit a massive Psychic and barely survive a Poison Jab. So I have to swap Pokey in again, but Hop uses Thunderbolt so it's not completely free. Another turn Protect gets Pokey to full before it clutches up and misses a Power Whip, giving Pincurchin a free curse. Thankfully, the next attack does hit and finishes off the Spike Ball, leading to Hop's Snorlax, who hits a pretty hard Hammer Arm but then takes massive damage from the follow-up Revenge. So after another turn of Protect for healing, Pokey can finish off Snorlax with an Iron Head. I get surprised again when Hop sends out his Corviknight next. I could have sworn this was his ace for the tournament, but I think I'm misremembering his rematch team where he uses the Gmax Corviknight. Turns out I don't know this game as well as I thought I did. While my little fugue state was happening, Corviknight is very annoying against my team, hitting a Swagger on Old Quinkole, forcing a swap into Bitey while raising its defenses. But a defense drop from Liquidation helps offset that, letting Bitey square up in the 1v1 and take out Corviknight with a couple more Liquidations, leading to Hop's actual ace, Inteleon. So I swap in my bulkiest Pokemon, Pokey, as Inteleon Dynamaxes and hits a relatively hard Max Quake. Pokey is then able to protect and tank a Max Darkness pretty well. But after a special defense drop, I can't risk staying in, so I swap in Ringo expecting another, but he gets hit with a massive Max Hailstorm instead, which does massive damage and sets up Hail. After Inteleon shrinks down, Ringo protects to avoid a Dark Pulse and gets him Hail Chip down. Then I feel comfortable Water Attack is not coming and I bring in Old Quinkole to tank an Icy Wind. She protects again for more Hail Chip before I swap back into Pokey on a light Snipe Shot as the Hail ends. This lets Pokey protect to build up some leftover recovery, before he tanks a Dark Pulse and finishes off Hop's team with a clutch Power Whip hit. Okay, so Hop might be slightly better now. That was a legitimately scary battle. When we leave the stadium, Leon is there to greet us. He rightfully points out how much Hop has improved and talks about how excited he is to battle with us. The feeling is mutual, my man. I have just the strategy in mind for you. But some dinner does sound nice, so let's do that. but after me and Hop wait for hours in the hotel lobby, Leon still doesn't show up. Instead, Piers shows up to let us know that Leon was headed over to Rose Tower to meet with the chairman, and he asked Piers to let us know he'd be late for dinner. Naturally, we disregard this message and decide it's in our best interest to take over Rose Tower by force to get some dinner. There's hangry, and then there's become terrorists to get some goddamn dinner hangry. We are firmly in the latter camp now. When we get outside, we'd meet up with Marnie and Team Yell. Then Oleana shows up to tell us she will never let us interrupt the meeting between Leon and Rose, but she immediately contradicts this by giving a random grunt the key to the building and organizes an impromptu Easter egg hunt to find it. Do you want us to interrupt the meeting or not? Because if you didn't, then staying in the tower would take care of that. This might be the dumbest plotline in any Pokemon game, and that's saying a lot. I feel like Game Freak felt like they needed a true quote-unquote evil team and shoehorned this in at the last second. This would have been so much better if we just battled Oleana at the door to Rose Tower or something. Anyway, we find the allegedly evil Macrocosmo member 3 times and he runs off to the train station. This is when we get probably the cringiest moment of the game. There is a wall of Macrocosmo members blocking our way, and Piers decides that a completely silent impromptu concert will fix this. Somehow, the eerie lack of music and random dance moves does manage to draw a crowd, and we can continue our very dumb mission. Why did they have to put this in the game? With that taken care of, all we have to do is ride the elevator to the top floor. Me and Hop get ambushed by grunts every couple floors, but it's really no issue to take them out, so we'll skip to the top. When we get to the top of the tower, Oleana is there to greet us. I think she's supposed to seem insane and irrational here, but we literally did break in. Her anger is completely warranted. Oleana leads with Frostlass and I lead with Mismatch. Will-O-Wisp gets the burn on Mismatch and weakens its attack, causing Rock Slide to do barely a quarter. Then I decide to protect for no reason and let Frostlass set up a double team for free. But then after another double team, Mismatch still hits his Rock Slide to take Frostlass under half. So I swap in Old Queen Cole, who takes small damage from Hex before Frostlass uses double team again, which Old Queen Cole ignores to KO with Incinerate. That could have been scary. Milotic is Oleana's next pick, so I scout its attack with Protect, before swapping in Ringo on a light Surf. Ringo outspeeds to one-shot the fish with Drum Beating. Next up is Salazzle, so I scout with Protect again. I stay in, expecting her to keep trying to poison, but then Salazzle hits a strong Venoshock before it falls to Bulldoze. Serena is Oleana's next pick, so I protect to scout yet again before swapping into Miss Witch. In hindsight, I'm not sure why I did this. She can tank 2 acrobatics, but her psychic barely does over half. So I swap in Old Queen Cole again, who takes the attacks much better, eating up an acrobatics and a drop kick before dropping Serena with an Incinerate. Leading to Oleana's ace, Garbodor. It's supposed to represent her garbage personality, but I really like Garbodor, so I find that offensive. After Gigantamaxing, Garbodor is able to do a decent chunk with Max Quake even through the Protect, so I swap in Pokey, who takes about the same damage without Protect. Then Pokey protects again to stall out Dynamax and to show me that Garbodor has nothing to hit us with, which makes the rest of the battle very easy, as Pokey uses 2 Bulldozes to finish the trash bag. With Oleana defeated, we can finally learn what has really been happening here, and it's a meeting between Rose and Leon. Exactly what we were told it was. This is so stupid. Have I mentioned that? I get my team trained up and head back to Wyndon Stadium. When I get there, Hop actually does a pretty great job of being my hype man as I enter the stadium. I get registered for the finals and find out I have to share a locker room with all the gym leaders. It's a little packed in here. We head out onto the pitch and Leon gives his big defending champ speech to the contenders. Cool scene, but we're just kind of standing random places. Then Bede decides to interrupt the ceremony and demand I battle him as the new Fairy-type gym leader. He starts to complain about how hard the training is and then wagers his entire battling career on this battle. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Bede leads with Mawile and I lead with Bitey. Liquidation does just under half and Mawile uses Play Rough, so I decided to swap out into Old Queen Cole, who is able to take a Play Rough on the swap and an Iron Head with no issues before getting the KO with Incinerate. Bede brings out Gardevoir next, who hits a strong Psychic before Old Queen Cole gets an Omni Boost with her first Ancient Power, so she survives a second Psychic and can hit another Ancient Power to take Gardevoir into the yellow. And I bring in Miss Witch, who takes more damage than expected from a resisted Psychic, but is able to finish Gardevoir with a Dazzling Gleam after she wishes. Next up is Bede's Rapidash. Rapidash outspeeds to do massive damage with a critical hit Dazzling Gleam. Then Miss Witch's own Gleam does huge damage before the Witch heals the Brony. So I swap in Pokey, who barely even feels the incoming Dazzling Gleam or the following Psycho Cut, and takes Rapidash out with an Iron Head. Finally, Bede brings out his ace, Hatterene. I go ahead and have Pokey protect as Hatterene Gigantamaxes, and thank the Lord I did, because Hatterene has a fire move that definitely would have killed. But this information lets me bring in Mismatch on the next max, who 4 times resists the move and tanks it well even in the sun. Then I swap Pokey back in on a G-Max Smite, which does crazy damage for a resisted move, and it confuses Pokey. So I bring in Bitey this time to resist the incoming Mystical Fire, and we protect to stall out the last turn of Heavy Sun and block a Psychic. Then a Rock Slide does over half to Hatterene and gets a clutch flinch, letting Bitey stay in to finish the battle with a liquidation. Close match there. Beat has proven once and for all that Fairy is just a better version of Psychic. He got a lot better when he actually used something with resistances. Now it's time to start the Champion Cup proper, with my revenge match against the Water-type Master, Nessa. As usual for this run, I lead completely wrong against her team, as I bring in Ringo against her Golisopod. So I swap out expecting a first impression, but instead Golisopod gets a free Sword Stance off. Damn. Thankfully, Bitey is able to outspeed and take it to emergency exit range with a Rock Slide. This lets Nessa bring in her Barraskewda, so I swap out Bitey for Pokey on a powerful drill run. Pokey then protects to get another turn of leftovers before taking another drill run and finishing the fish with Power Whip. Next, Nessa sends out her Sea King, which seems like a mistake because it just sets up Aqua Ring before falling to Power Whip. So Golisopod comes back out and shows that it does have first impression, doing an impressive chunk of damage to Pokey before he finishes it with another Power Whip. Second to last is Nessa's Pelipper. This one is an interesting matchup because I believe her ace has Swift Swim, so I have Pokey take its time dealing with Pelipper, who also has Tailwind. I have to be careful to make sure that I don't let Nessa's ace come in with rain or speed support. Basically, I just alternate Protect and Power Whip, making sure that I run out all 5 turns of rain, all 4 turns of Tailwind, and hit a Power Whip after Pelipper roosts and loses the flying type. With all that taken care of, we're in a pretty good position when Nessa brings out her Dreadnought. After Nessa Gigantamaxes her Dreadnought, Pokey is able to protect and take minimal damage from a Max Darkness. Then I swap in Ringo on another that does nearly half. But I'm not worried because Ringo with a Choice Scarf is able to outspeed and take down the Gigantamax Turtle with a single drum beating. If we're being totally honest, I was hoping to just sweep her entire team with Ringo, but then Golisopod threw me off. I think the battle actually went better this way. So it's time for the penultimate match of the tournament with one of the scarier gym leaders, the Ghost-type Master, Alistair. Alistair leads with his Dusknoir and I lead with Bitey. Bitey is able to hit a Crunch, but it barely misses the one-shot and lets Dusknoir lower its speed with Rock Tomb. Alistair then cheats and heals his Dusknoir, but it doesn't really affect Bitey because 2 more crunches still takes the Ghost down. It's important that Bitey doesn't have her speed lowered at the end of the run, so I swap out into Ringo to take on Poltegeist. Alistair takes a page out of my book, stalling with Protect after Ringo eats a Giga Drain on the swap, but it doesn't do anything. Ringo is able to knock out Poltegeist with a knockoff and a drum beating, even after taking 2 Shadow Balls thanks to its Assault Vest. Next up, Alistair sends out his Chandelure, so I try to get a Steam Engine proc, but it just goes for Will-O-Wisp on the swap. But that's okay. Old Queen Cole is able to survive 2 Shadow Balls on low HP before knocking out Chandelure with 2 Ancient Powers. Cursula is Alistair's second to last Pokemon. I protect Discow's move choice, which ends up being an Ancient Power. So I decide to bring Bitey back out, but Alistair just uses Amnesia on the swap. And Bitey makes him pay with a one-shot with Crunch. Leading to Alistair's ace, Gengar. This is a terrifying Pokemon, especially with its Gigantamax move. But I have a plan. With a Choice Scarf equipped, Bitey's able to outspeed with a Crunch, which barely doesn't kill, and gets disabled. But thankfully, Bitey survives the incoming Max Darkness, letting it continue to outspeed and get the KO with Struggle. And survive with only 17 HP. I literally jumped for joy when this battle happened. Bitey is an absolute legend for this performance. Good game, Alistair. Now it's time for the final match of the Champion Cup Finals, and this time it's an actual revenge match against the man who killed E.T. and Pinch King, Rayhan. Rayhan leads with Torkoal and I lead with Old Queen Cole. After Torkoal's Drought sets up the Sun, Old Queen Cole sets up Stealth Rock and tanks a Solar Beam. An Ancient Power then barely misses the KO before another Solar Beam from Torkoal. Then Rayhan cheats by healing up his Torkoal, but Karma bites him in the ass when Ancient Power crits for the one-shot. Rayhan sends out his Flygon next, so I swap in Mist Switch while Flygon uses Earthquake for nearly half. He usually sets up Sandstorm, but I guess the 4 times effective attack was too tempting. No worries for me though, because Flygon wastes this next turn setting up Sandstorm before getting one-shot with Dazzling Gleam. Leading to Rayhan's Turtonator, a personal favorite Pokemon of mine. I swap in Old Queen Cole as Turtonator sets up Sunny Day, but then his Turtle Dragon gets outsped and one-shot with another Ancient Power. Second to last is his Goodra. Yet again, Rayhan breaks his standard by using Surf instead of Rain Dance as I bring in Ringo. But Ringo barely feels the attack in the sun. After that, Rayhan goes back to his weather shenanigans and sets up the rain, but I really could not care less. Ringo is able to knock out Goodra with 3 Drain Punches and gets the knockout at nearly full HP. Finally leading to Rayhan's ace, Duraludon. Rayhan strikes a pose and Gigantamaxes his Fridge Dragon again, but my team is way better prepared this time. Ringo is able to chip away at it with Drain Punches to under half, taking only a couple max Rock Falls in the process. When Ringo falls below half, I swap him out for Pokey, who tanks the signature G-Max Depletion, letting Pokey stay in to tank a final Body Press before knocking out Duraludon with a boosted Revenge. Good riddance, Rayhan. I don't care if you are Leon's rival. Nobody kills my original team members and gets away with it. Nobody. With all the challengers taken care of, I head back to the pitch to take on the champion of Galar himself, Leon. Even though I know the match gets interrupted, I still get a little nervous at how underleveled I am. Thankfully, Rose decides that now is the perfect time to set off the apocalypse and release the evil monster from space. It was such a well thought out plan. I can't believe it backfired on him. Such a shame. Leon sets off to Hammerlock to try and get the situation under control. Take note, Cynthia. While Hop and I go to the Slumbering Well. Regardless of how bad the logic was earlier, having some legendary doggos on our side might be pretty helpful right now. I'm just going to ignore the cutscene with Sonia and my mom. When me and Hop get to a bridge, the doggo from before appears with its sibling. Then some fog rolls in and they leave. We must be in the right place. Definitely the right place. We find the shrine from the restaurant tapestry with a rusty shield and sword in front of a gravestone. And nobody's looking, so we're just going to take these priceless antiques for ourselves. Score! Good idea, Hop. When we get to Hammerlock, Rayhan stops us to let us know that Rose is in the power plant in the basement, and the only way to get to the roof is an elevator from the basement. Sounds like bad building design to me. Then Oleana stops me in the lobby to tell me more or less the same thing, actually. She also begs me to save Rose too while I'm at it, but I don't think that required a cutscene. When I find Rose, he seems completely unharmed, actually. He's just staring at a broken sphere and rambling about semantics and wishing stars. Could it be that this insanely wealthy person is not actually a genius? I don't know, sounds unrealistic. Let's start the battle already. Rose leads with a Scavalier and I lead with Old Queen Cole, who just outspeeds and one-shots with Incinerate after my wristband sparkles. Next, Rose brings in his Fairthorn, but it's the same story, outspeed and one-shot with Incinerate. So Rose sends out his Clink-a-Clang. Clink-a-Clang actually does outspeed my pile of rocks, but it just hits some light wild charges, letting Old Queen Cole stay in to finish it with 2 Incinerates. Second to last is Rose's Berserker. Berserker outspeeds, but it just hits a Screech to lower my defenses before Incinerate gets another one-shot. Finally, Rose sends in his ace, Kaparaja. Expecting a ground-type move, I swap out Old Queen Cole into Pokey as the Elephant Gigantamaxes, and that's exactly what happens. Pokey handles that attack pretty well, so I have him stay in to Protect Stall another Dynamax turn. Then I swap in Ringo to sponge up the final Max Quake on Rose's last turn of Dynamax. With the elephant shrunk down to size, Ringo is able to take it down with no issues, hitting 2 Drain Punches that keep him healthy, while Kaparaja hits a massive Heavy Slam. Yo, Rose kinda sucks at this battling thing. Turns out money can't buy competence. Why was this man made chairman of anything? Let's just leave him here. Hop and I head up to the roof to find Leon in the middle of battle against an absolutely massive purple skeleton dragon. Leon thanks us for coming, but tells us it's all under control. That's good to know. I'm sure Leon's normal Pokeball will catch the legendary dragon with no issues at all. What? That didn't work? I'm shocked. I guess it's my turn to take down Eternatus in Leon's place. I lead Old Queen Cole into Eternatus. She can tank cross poisons with no issues thanks to leftovers. But anytime Eternatus uses a special move like Dragon Pulse, it does massive damage. And our ancient powers are only dealing chip damage at best. We try to protect a stall, but it doesn't accomplish much as Old Queen Cole only gets 1 more ancient power off before getting taken low. I protect 1 more time to burn some PP before I swap out into Miss Switch on a massive cross poison that takes her low. So after another protect, I bring in Ringo on a Dragon Pulse, but Ringo is only able to stay in 1 more turn, taking another Dragon Pulse to half before hitting a Drum Beating to drop speed. Next up, I bring in Bitey, who barely survives a huge Dynamax cannon at 35 HP. Bitey protects for a turn to burn some PP, then hits a massive Rock Slide that fails to get the KO but does get a massive flinch to save her life. A follow-up crunch finally takes down the beast of a dragon. But it doesn't take it down for good, because Eternatus Gigantamaxes itself into a giant hand from the skies, and its power is so great that we can't move at all. Hop suggests the antiques we borrowed might appease the evil dragon, but instead the puppers from the bridge show up to help us out, after our rusty sword and shield transform them into giant armored doggos. Oh yeah, now we've got a raid battle. A lot of people believe that you can just protect in this battle and let Zacian and Zamazenta take care of Eternatus on their own. I decided to put that theory to the test, and I can say that it does not hold up. Sure, the doggos do really good into damage into Eternatus, and the first couple turns it really looked like I could just protect and pray. But Eternatus is insanely bulky and just keeps lowering everyone's attack with max Wormwind. Eventually, I decide I have to swap out Old Queen Cole into Miss Switch to try to preserve the doggo's damage output. But instead, Eternatus swaps to Max Flare to kill Zamazenta. There goes half our damage output. To make matters worse, when I try to use Psychic on the next round, Eternatus hits a massive Max Ooze to immediately kill Miss Switch. Hop's double dies too, but I don't care. I bring in Mismatch just to protect, but Eternatus still takes it low with its Dragon move, plus Hop misses his attack. So I swap again into Pokey as Zacian is useless and Snorlax fails to finish the battle. Then Zacian finally decides he wants to help again and finishes Eternatus with a Metal Claw. Oh man, that battle was so much harder than I wanted it to be. I really thought the doggos would take care of Eternatus on their own and I would be safe. Boy was I wrong. I end up catching a Eternatus to save the region and the dogs fly off into the sunset. Thanks guys, see you later. I won't. When I get back to Wyndon, I overhear some randos talking about how Rose turned himself in. Now that is unrealistic. Hop also shows up to tell me that Leon still wants to do the championship battle. Well, he better, otherwise I would have just finished the run before Eternatus. That said, I lay Miss Switch to rest in the dead box and have Bone Mama join the team in her place. I use all my rare and experienced cameras on her to get her up to level 59 and she evolves into her final form, Mandibuzz. A personal favorite of mine and a pretty reliable defensive Pokemon. But I still need to get my team up to the level cap, so I run around battling all the static encounters in the wild area, which ends up being a mistake, because when I battle Gengar with Mismatch, it manages to outspeed with Destiny Bond, so when Mismatch knocks it out with Crunch, he also dies. That might be the most frustrating death of the run. If I just had a Choice Scarf equipped, it would have been fine, and Mismatch was only 3 levels away from learning Vicious Ren too. Ugh. I lay Mismatch to rest as well and add Scuttle back to the team in his place. After that, I train a lot more carefully and successfully get my surviving team members to the level cap for Leon. So I head out of the tunnel to take on the final hurdle of Pokemon Shield, the climactic battle with the undefeated invincible champion Leon and his powerful team. Leon is thrilled at the crowd as we square up and he strikes his iconic pose. And now the battle is underway. Leon leads with his Aegislash and I lead with Old Queen Cole. Aegislash starts with a King Shield so we get a free turn to set up Stealth Rock. Then Aegislash swaps to his attack form to nail a huge Flash Cannon, but our Fire Punch hits harder for the one-shot, leading to Leon's Haxorus. Expecting an Earthquake, I swap out into Bone Mama, who ignores the attack on the swap. Haxorus then hits a massive Outrage for more than half before Bone Mama's Brave Bird takes it low as well. But Haxorus is faster, so it kills Bone Mama with its next attack. So I bring in Bitey on the free switch, who outspeeds with the Choice Scarf to get the KO with Crunch. Leon responds by bringing out his Seismitoad, so I swap in my starter Ringo on a Toxic, basically a free switch since Ringo can outspeed for a one-shot with Drum Beating. Cinderace is the next choice for Leon, which is exactly what I've been waiting for. I swap in Old Queen Cole on a Pyro Ball to get a Steam Engine boost. Surprisingly, Cinderace survives an Ancient Power, but in Acrobatics bounces off my rocks. So even with Leon healing Cinderace, Old Queen Cole is able to finish off the rabbit with a couple more Hard Rock boosted Ancient Powers. Second to last, Leon sends out his Dragapult. Old Queen Cole's first Ancient Power does less than half after Stealth Rock and a Shadow Ball takes her low. But Old Queen Cole managed to be clutch and hits a massive crit on Dragapult to get the knockout, leaving only Leon's ace, Charizard. Charizard can be a very scary Gigantamax Pokemon, but Stealth Rock does half its damage as it comes in. And thanks to Steam Engine, Old Queen Cole outspeeds to get the clean KO with a final Ancient Power, even with Charizard and Gigantamax. This is the battle I've been preparing for the entire run. The first time I played Shield, I got destroyed by Leon, so his team is seared into my mind. I was not expecting Old Queen Cole to clutch up at the end with a crit on Dragapult, so I had Choice Scarf Bitey waiting as my finisher. But that pile of rocks would not be stopped and proved that she is the best encounter I could ask for in this game. I actually really love Pokemon Shield. I know that the story is lacking in some places, particularly at the end when you quote-unquote rescue Leon, but I think it's really charming and fun. I also think the gym leader's use of Dynamax is a fair but challenging experience, so it feels really good to successfully beat a hardcore Nuzlocke at Pokemon Shield. Per the rules of the run, all the Pokemon on my team for the champion fight will be banned for future runs, including the Pokemon that fainted in the Leon battle. The next game I will be playing is Pokemon Scarlet, which I am definitely looking forward to. Scarlet is my favorite Pokemon game since White, and I am very excited to try it out in a hardcore Nuzlocke. I expect to wipe at least a couple times in Star Battles, so you'll have to keep an eye out for that video and see how badly I fail or succeed. I've been Klinga Games, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll join me for Pokemon Scarlet.